Hey guys, how's it going? This is Tom Burkhart from car-revs Daily, going out for a second drive review in the 2020 Hyundai Palisade Limited. This is our second outing with the truck, and we're going to take it really easy today. We're going to do a little bit of in-town driving and then walk around outside and then seating demonstration inside. So to see how big that third row seat is, we're going to do the next segments of the video as a point of view, as a head cam. But wanted to start it so you could actually see who's talking. Very excellent car in a lot of ways, and there's good news to share about the vehicle. Driving down at sea level versus up at 7,000 feet in Asheville, North Carolina, where I drove it last month. The best news is that this 291 horsepower 3.8 liter V6 and brand new 8-speed automatic are plenty quick. It's about a 7.5 second sprint to 60 miles an hour, and definitely more than capable for an 8-passenger luxury SUV, which really wasn't clear. And I got a lot of comments on the mountain drive video, that it looked a little pokey, and we discussed, going uphill, it just didn't have a ton of extra oomph. So really relieved that it is so speedy in town, and just excited to share a couple more good things about the Palisade, and then a couple quirks I've discovered living with the vehicle for a week. So let's switch to head cam right now and we'll carry on. All right, thanks for watching. Okay, here we go with the point of view head cam. So in this 2020 Palisade Limited, we've got basically all of the equipment you could ever ask for, and a lot more goodies than the Buick Enclave we tested last week. So that extends to active cruise, of course, and then the cooled seats, very nice to have. Just an amazingly luxurious cabin overall. I mean, look at this cabin. Even the new Highlander, which had a little bit of a facelift for 2019, I believe. The cabin looks unbelievably dated in that vehicle versus how posh and premium this all is. I mean, just ultra low cowl, these nice, metallicized elements here that are actually metal. Just the whole experience is extremely luxurious and future-proof. I really like the push-button shifter, but there is a little bit of a quirk with that one. Let's see if we can. I think I missed it. All right. So one cool thing, just tech-wise, so you can see as we hit the blinkers, it shows us a rear-facing cam for that side. It takes the place of the standard digital displays. So in Palisade, there's 3 levels of the 3 basic trim levels, and this Limited is the only one that brings it the full TFT panel with all the configurable gauges and basically like virtual gauges for everything else. The other ones have just a smaller info panel and traditional gauges, and it isn't as it's not quite as flexible in terms of what it can display. But that being said, you can kind of tell that this is one of Hyundai's first fully configurable displays, because there's not that much cool stuff you can do. The coolest thing that it does with the displays is as you change modes, it's got a really splashy graphic. So I go into sport, then we can go into smart. It obviously go into eco. So it's a little splash in the gauges, and then corresponding info over here in the main display panel. We have Apple CarPlay showing right now with Google Maps, and satellite view, which I just love. This car has standard navigation in the Limited, but I mean, you can't beat the satellite view on Google Maps. So what mode are we in right now? We're in comfort, or sport. The truck drives best, in my opinion, with it in what they call the lock setting. So it maintains as close as it can to a 50-50 split front and rear for the all-wheel drive system. Okay, so there we go. So it's still very front biased, but you can see it's showing us a little bit of the torque split, and it does give more power to the back. It makes the car feel a little bit more balanced, and just improves the handling feel, in my opinion. As we discussed, the 3.8 liter V6 with 291 horsepower, 262 foot-pounds of torque has just enough power. I mean, it's about the same pace as Tahoe, 260 miles an hour in the mid-7s. maybe even a little quicker than Tahoe, with the same cabin room, but as was pointed out, you know, it weighs 1,000 pounds less, and it costs like about 15 to 20,000 pounds, 15 to 20 grand less. So those are all really good things. It's kind of a pretty view here. So we're in Charleston, South Carolina. We're driving over to Isle of Palms, up the intracoastal waterway. These people have their docks and stuff. So Isle of Palms is a little bit of a nice beach community here in Charleston. It's pretty cool. So other stuff with the oh yeah, so basically the configurable gauges, and then just like the tech suite itself is so good. Of course you got CarPlay, but I mean, what about the rest of it? So you've got all of this stuff you can display. The tech integration is just really, really good on this vehicle. It's so sophisticated that it really, it's just really impressive. For example, it's got quiet mode, so it won't do any kind of beeping. It also has a mode where it will amplify what's being said in front so that the people in back can hear it. Just really, really sophisticated stuff. Rear climate controls, you can actually even fold the back seats up and down, really via this setting. And then just these buttons are nice, like handy shortcuts. You can have your start items. Yeah, so anyway, it's just the tech integration is really good, but there's some stuff that might be a little too. Ooh, it's I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's playing what we're saying through the speakers in the back, so you can hear it a little bit better back there. All right, how do I turn that off? Alrighty, well, hopefully it's off. No, it's still on. Fuck. Voice recognition, vehicle. Okay, so we turned off driver talk, where the front microphone picks up the driver's voice and we'll play it through the rear speakers. Basically, so the people in back don't have to be saying like, what, all the time. Refinement in here is really, really good. Oh yes, but so let's talk a little bit more about the tech suite. So things that are a little bit weird, like, so we got active cruise, lane keep, blind spot, auto city braking, lots of other good stuff like that. Active cruise with a bunch of settings. So I have it set so that it follows really closely to the people in front of you, as well as having fast reaction time. So if someone, you know, some of the systems are just slow, they leave too much of a gap in traffic, and and then people just cut in all the time. It's just kind of irritating. Whereas with the reaction time settings, you can really minimize that. So something else that's cool in a lot of ways, but sort of not as great in my opinion, is that when you do have the active cruise control engaged like we do now, you can see we got cruise engage, and then that little green steering wheel icon indicates like full auto steering. So it's telling me keep hands on the wheel, and if you don't, it stops doing the auto steering for you. But it's really pretty good. It's effective, but it sometimes doesn't. It's just bizarre when you're driving it for one of the first times versus driving, you know, it's another type of vehicle, to have to be sort of like fighting the vehicle to keep it in lane when you have cruise control engaged. It just wants to stay either like sometimes a little what feels like too far to the right or too far to the left sometimes, and you just kind of have to always be sort of like battling the steering wheel, which is not ideal, and that's anytime you want to use cruise. I mean, there's no passive or old school cruise control option. It's just this one. So but the tech integration is great, but maybe, you know, in some ways it's a little too smart for its own good. The other thing that I noticed is that when you come into the car, I don't think it's going to do it because we've been driving around, but if you just get in the car and sit down and want to so you sit down, obviously, you press start via these nice metallicized buttons here, and then let's see if it'll let us. All right, well, we'll just get out and turn. Okay, it's a good looking vehicle. Okay, so we're locked. Granted, it hasn't done it every time, so it's a little bizarre. So unlock. Great seats with the squab extension. Nice sort of wake up graphics. And then let's say we put it in drive. Okay, so now of course it's not going to do it while I'm demonstrating, but like about 50% of the time when I've gotten in this vehicle, it has an electronic parking brake, and it won't automatically disengage that parking brake unless you have your seatbelt on. It just won't move. You can do it by depressing the brake and then turning off the automatic parking brake yourself, but it just kind of catches you out the first couple times it happens, and it won't move. You know, basically wants all the doors shut and at least driver's seatbelt to be on. Oops. At least driver's seatbelt to be on before it'll move. So it's just like, you know, just some of that tech stuff is getting a little spooky in certain ways. But I mean, around town, this what they call on the highway, it's like HDA, which is Hyundai Driving Assistant, I think. And even here, you've got lots of different settings. And then this the automatic steering control, when it can read the lane lines, is pretty nice. It works well, although like we said, it's sometimes like we'll pick a weird spot in the lanes, and then on the highway, if it's not well marked, it kind of is like a little bit nervous. It's like always making these little corrections, which is just a little strange. But it is very good. It's one of the best systems I've tried. I just wish you had more options for disabling this stuff individually. So for example, like I don't have lane keep on right now. It's just doing that, the auto steering function. We can also turn on lane keep assist, but it just would be nice if you could have the active cruise control on without the active steering. And that's, you know, it may be possible to have that functionality. I just haven't found it in the menus of the settings. So no biggie there. Just in general, like this, some of the Palisade comparisons I've made versus, you know, when you're testing these cars, it's all relative. It's like whatever you get out of it really shapes your opinion of the next vehicle, because you're like, oh, it's softer than this, it's harder than this, it does this differently. So last week I was testing the new 2020 Buick Enclave ST, which is the sport touring package. No mechanical changes to that, just big wheels and a little bit less chrome outside. But you know, Palisade rides a lot firmer than that Buick. This is a very, very comfy vehicle for the Palisade, but I mean, there's a lot more road feel, I guess, and a lot more just overall feedback on some like rough highway surfaces. It's just not nearly as smooth as the Buick. So that's neither here nor there, but it's just interesting to point out, if you wanted the ultimate in smoothness, this is more of like a, you know, a Germanic style ride and handling compromise. But you know, that's what's great in the mountains, and this Palisade would have done a lot better, and did do a lot better in the mountains than I think the Buick would, where it gets a little bit wayward. You know, it's just there's just a lot of mass moving around for such a soft suspension. But it's eerie how soft and smooth that vehicle is. I mean, even getting into this Palisade, which has been applauded for how luxurious it is, I mean, it's got nothing on the Enclave. That being said, the cabin is nicer, the tech is better, it's a lot more affordable. Buick really nickels and dimes you on all the stuff. Like, you don't get auto hold, for example, until you're in their Avenir setting, nor cold seats or even navigation for a $50,000 Enclave. So Palisade does really well in having this limited trim from like 46K feel ultra luxurious. Of course, the vehicle stickers from about $31,000 in its base configuration, but gets a lot better as you go up. So some other things like just that are interesting comparisons, because this $47,000 Palisade and the Buick were so close in price and mission, is that the Buick has like about 5 to 10 more cubic feet of total storage space with all the seats folded down, extra cubic feet versus the Palisade, but they're both, you know, between 85 and 95. So very, very, or the Buick might be almost 100, but anyway, they're very close. But this vehicle feels a hell of a lot smaller, a hell of a lot easier to drive, and a lot more nimble in tight urban areas, as well as aggressive cornering and mountain driving and stuff like that. So paddle shifters, the 8-speed automatic is great in this car. It does, the one quirk I've noticed is like as you go around corners, it always is in too high of a gear. Like it just would be really nice if it, even in sport mode, it really, I wish I could demonstrate this. Well, I can. Alrighty, so I'm gonna turn on the street. This isn't a good example because I would want somewhere where I could come out hard on the throttle. So I'm turning. And then right away it's got a downshift. It's got a downshift every single time, which is just unusual. It seems like a really basic programming language or programming settings would allow the vehicle to know when it's about to turn and keep you in a lower gear, particularly in sport mode. So just a little unusual. You can kind of tell that as good as this 8-speed automatic is, it's just we've all been, or many of us have been really spoiled by the brilliant logic in the ZF 8-speed automatic. It's in many luxury cars. So this automatic is great though. Has no like hiccups or rough changes, or there's no way to really catch it out and have it be like clonking around. So it's a very good transmission. It just needs that, maybe that last 10%, 5 to 10% of tuning to be perfect. But genuinely, this is a great car. Great car from the driver's seat, and even better from all the other seats. So something I do love is this Alcantara like hyper suede headliner, which comes on the limited model. I think I would probably go with the limited just because it's so feature rich, but you can definitely get a lot of the goodies on the mid-spec. I can't remember what it's called, but the mid-spec model. And I actually like the wheels, and where's the sun? I actually like the wheels on that car better, and the front grille a little better too. So they do have a different look, so it's good to be cognizant of that when you're choosing. But I mean, the limited is really handy because it's got all this stuff standard. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a walk around outside, and then we'll come back inside for a bit. All right, so very cool looking truck. I feel ridiculous with this thing on my head out in public, but as you can see, it's very cool. It looks really nice. It's gotten a lot of looks today. I don't think many of them have made it to the East Coast yet, so this is the first time a lot of people are seeing this car. I certainly had never seen one in the real world. These LEDs, this like alligator eye or crocodile eye or something, looks really cool. And then dedicated LED low and high beam projectors, so there's a ton of light. Just a really cool look for this car. Doesn't look like any other Hyundai, and it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just an interesting stance that they've taken, where they don't want all their vehicles to be like, you know, clones of each other style wise. And this Palisade definitely looks different. Looks very different from its platform mate, the Kia Telluride. A much more attractive nose in my opinion, but there's some quirks that take a little bit of, you know, a little bit of time to get used to. Some cool stuff like these, the blinker repeaters here form like a nice C shape. The most unconventional detail of the design is this sort of like unmatched bright work element. This isn't chrome. Hopefully you can see it's like a nickel finish, but this looks a little bizarre. I mean, it definitely makes the vehicle look huge, but it is a little just bizarre looking at first, but it's a good looking vehicle overall. I want to come to this restaurant instead of just using their parking lot. So big car, about 5 inches wider and longer than the Santa Fe XL that it replaced, and it's a really proud looking vehicle. One upgrade for the mid-spec and above Palisades and Tellurides that is definitely worth having, which you can kind of get a peek at, is the auto leveling rear suspension. So for an 8-passenger vehicle, having auto leveling suspension is pretty critical, because otherwise it's going to drive down the road when it's full like an old Caravan, you know, like dragging its ass on the pavement. And then of course the Sachs dampers are standard, I believe, on all Palisade trim levels. So those are really good, and they do have that great European feel and help give the Palisade more of that European feel than the Buick in particular. So it's a cool looking truck. It looks very cool. I really like it. Oh, one thing I definitely love and want to show you. So it's just like, the one thing that I like is just like a lot of the overlapping and tucked in elements. You know, so obviously this crocodile eye line of light, you know, doesn't continue underneath the bumper, but it really does have that look. So it's just like that overlapped and layering effect is really modern and contemporary for its overall style. And then I love the way there's more layering for the LED indicator. So like that's underneath the crocodile eye. It just looks cool. It's really striking. People have liked it on the road. A lot of people have given it some no big thumbs up or conversations yet, but you can definitely tell the car guys are curious what this is, and one of the first times they've seen it. Okay, so yeah, so you're looking inside here. The leather's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of cool finishes in here. Very, very modern stuff, and actual metal stuff for many elements like the Harman Kardon speakers. The seats are great. Got the squab extension, 4-way lumbar, and really, really comfortable headrests. You can see that Alcantara for the headliner, and then open the rear sunshade. All right. Oh yeah, and other little detail stuff that really helps reinforce the cabin's premiumness. I mean, just these little things here, it seems like a little detail, but I mean, it's noticeable, and it's cool. It just helps this vehicle really feel like everyone's saying, like it's a real luxury car that's priced like a mainstream family SUV. All right, so where Palisade really, really excels is where we're sitting right now, is in the second row. It's got a ton of space in here, bigger than Pilot and Explorer by a lot in the second row, and then and also good third row legroom. So what kind of controls do we have here? Well, first off, we got USBs in each seat for charging, which is just handy. You've got an actual 110 volt plug, and then a cigarette lighter style power port. Controls for the temp back here. It's obviously very hot down here in South Carolina, and then cooled seats for the back as well, which is really rare. I haven't seen that in any car before. I have cooled seats in the back. Granted, I've been on punishment for a little bit. So this big moonroof obviously really lightens up the experience back here. And then something cool that they discuss is this sort of like these settings here. Hopefully you can see it. You can basically have it be the diffuse air, or have it be like pinpointed. So it's just like, instead of having it be blasting, it can just go like wide with the air. Very comfy. So these second row seats obviously slide really easily. Very nice slide functionality. Double cup holders, triple cup holders if you count the door, and then a good walk through here. And this is a proper 8-seat vehicle, even eight passenger vehicle, even with the standard captain's chairs in the limited and second row. So it's big, it's comfy, and you're gonna love it. Oh shit, I can't get out. So another feature we just got to demonstrate is power operated child locks. So that's just really nice. When you lock the windows, you can also turn on the child lock via a button, so you don't actually have to go into the door, which is great if you're going to be like moving colleagues and then kids. You really don't want to lock people in the back, but you also don't want kids to have the ability to open the door at all. So fold the seat, so it goes pretty far back. It's just really nice second row. Alrighty, so let's look at how we get in the third row. We've got the third row folded down right now, which we did from the front touchscreen at some point. So we'll bring it back up. But great space back here. I mean, look how big this is. I love these three-row SUVs with the seat folded down, because it just feels effing huge. And then there's even more space under here. like a little dedicated storage area. So you got more power ports, part of our subwoofer, other power ports here, and power ports for more cup holders. So, and then controls here for the seats that that a passenger can do themselves. So we'll be able to see why that is in just a moment. So third row left. So if we go back here, you can fold it down further. So it basically gives the third row people the ability to recline it even more. But first things first, so let's fold this down again. And then we've got releases for the second row. So not full like up and down, but you can release the second row from back here, which is nice. Okay, so let's get both of these up, and then we're gonna hop in. So the biggest thing with Palisade, of course, is that it's huge. She big. And being really big, it wants to make the third row actually doable and fairly comfortable for adults, for average American adults. So no power operation here, but just this little button and then the spring-loaded change, so you can climb in that way. All right, and then we're in. Oof. Okay, so when you haven't reclined the rear seat, it's very church pew-like. But I mean, look at the legroom. Even with the seat like in its most furthest back position for the second row, I mean, I fit in here. I'm about, you know, 5'11", 180, no, I'm just like 230. So it's like, you know, I can fit back here. I genuinely fit. The knees are up, but there's a great amount of knee room and leg room, as well as like not super claustrophobic in feel. It's good back here. It really is. Genuinely impressive vehicle. And then of course we mentioned another power port. So it's got these handles for when you are climbing in. And so how do we get out? So let's see this. So I think it's this red ripcord. So we pull that, and then we can get out that way. Nice. Or we can just go this way and go through the central passage. All right, so another button here, so it does the same thing as the button down there. Just really handy stuff. And then as you're getting in, you can hang on to that. Another handle here. It's a good car. Great family vehicle. Such good value. And really a lot of that class above premiumness, and of course features. And then the cabin design. I mean, it really is a huge achievement for Hyundai. This car's gonna sell like hotcakes. And it's easy to see why. Let's see if there's anything else cool in the front that we can look at. Oh, there's my mouse. I've been looking for this. All right, so you know, more limited adjustments for the passenger seat. Of course, still power operated. Oh, and then this big central bin is like, it's big. It's a lot bigger than in a lot of other ones. And then yet more power ports. And this car could charge an army of stuff. More power ports in there. Obviously your primary USB for connectivity there, and then your Qi wireless charge point. These cup holders are pretty cool. I did like a little Instagram post about them, calling them like the ninja cup holders, because they can fold away completely. Oh yeah, so they can just be like closed, and then obviously spring loaded to spring into action the moment you need a sip and need somewhere to hold stuff. So really like Palisade. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously it's different than many of my other videos. If you want to see the car driven hard, up to Mount Mitchell in North Carolina, like 7,000 feet, and through some great mountain roads in the Blue Ridge Parkway, of course check out the other Palisade review on this channel, and look for a full written review over on car-revsdaily.com in the next week or so. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Please subscribe.